Evet arkadaşlar, günaydın hepinize. Ee, I think this is the first session that we are meeting this term for literary criticism course. And I just want to ask you, how many of you have watched the videos I shared for the first 2 weeks? Have you watched the videos? I'm getting some answers. You have. Okay, thank you. Did you get the materials, the PDF copy I have shared? Yes. If it is not clear, if it's not clear, you can come and visit me sometime in the faculty when I am there. I don't go to my office every day, but whenever I'm in my office, you can come and visit me and take the photocopy of the book, take the necessary part of the book. So, and by doing so, you can have a clear copy. You can have a clear copy there. Now, let me start by pointing out the topic of our lesson. The topic of our lesson is literary criticism. If there is something called criticism, there is definitely the object of criticism, the subject of criticism. Okay, if there's something called literature, there's definitely a criticism of it all the time. And I always start with one question. Whenever I start this lesson in the beginning of the terms, I always start with this question: what is literature? Okay, what is literature? Literature is any kind of written text, actually. Any kind of written text is called literature, because we can talk about medical literature, legal literature. We can talk about fiction. We can even talk about agricultural literature. So any kind of written documents, any kind of written texts, any kind of theoretical texts in philosophy, in literature, in criticism can be called literature. But here in our course, what we're talking about is literature, fiction. Literature is fiction in our course. Therefore, we have to talk about the fictional works, and we have to categorize the fictional works as literature. Under the heading of literature, we have to categorize the fictional works. Fictional works are literary works. So, what are the fictional works? Novels, in the first place. Poetry, plays, drama. Okay, sometimes letters written by famous authors, famous philosophers, between the famous people, famous historical characters, famous philosophers, famous theoreticians, or famous authors. Even those letters can be considered as literature. On the other hand, sometimes diaries of important people, diaries of famous people can be considered as literature if they are written in a good style. And sometimes even essays written by some of the talented writers can be considered as literature. Therefore, literature is a very general area. But what is good literature? Good literature is usually difficult to decide on. Because in good literature, for instance, Charles Dickens's novels are considered as literature. On the other hand, Stephen King's novels are also considered as literature. But which one is more valuable? Or Shakespeare is literature. Shakespeare is literature. Beckett is literature. But on the other hand, James Bond novels are also literature. So which ones should be considered as good fiction? Okay, good fiction survives for a long time. That's important. Good fiction survives for a long time. And on the other hand, good fiction must be enjoyed by most people most of the times, even in the past, even at present, even in the future. It should be enjoyed by many people, and it should be meaningful for many people. In this term, we are going to study literary theories. They are not totally critical theories. They are not totally theories of criticism, but usually they are the theories of literature. Literary theories, we're calling them. Why literary theories? Because most of the early philosophers like Plato, Aristotle, Horace, Longinus, the people that we are going to talk about in this lesson, wrote about how literature should be written rather than how we should analyze literature. In the second term, in the spring term, this course will turn into how we should analyze fiction, how we should criticize fiction. But here, this term, we have to talk about how, or we're talking about the philosophers, thinkers, theoreticians who wrote about how to write fiction. Okay, how to write fiction. So most of the texts that we are going to read this term are about the principles of writing. All right, are about principles of writing, techniques of writing, and they may be regarded as the instructions on how to write fiction. Okay, how to write fiction. Now, after talking about what literature is, I want to talk about literature as a Cinderella subject. Okay, as a Cinderella subject. What is Cinderella subject? Before the beginning of the 19th century, because until the beginning of the 19th century, which is 1820s, 1830s, until 1820s, literature was not considered as a serious topic. Okay, it wasn't considered as a serious topic. It was considered as a Cinderella subject. What was it? What was Cinderella? You know the fairy tale about Cinderella, the poor girl working in a family's house, and she's treated badly, but she falls in love with a rich guy, and then they get married. It's a romance fairy tale, and there are so many romance stories. People considered literature as a compilation of romance stories, and they labeled it as Cinderella subject. So it wasn't considered as a serious subject to be studied in the academic world. Academically, it was disregarded all the time. And the reason was language and literature studies were only under the monopoly of the church. Only the church colleges studied literature and language because they knew the power of language and literature, because language and literature were so powerful that they could change the minds of people. They could change ideologies. They could change religious teachings. They could change politics in a country. Therefore, they had to be under control, and this control was given to the church instead of the universities. In the universities, history, in the universities, science subjects, medicine was studied, engineering was studied. But apart from that, most of the language and literature studies, social sciences or humanities in general, were studied in the churches. It wasn't given to universities. The churches had colleges. And you know the monks, the people who live in the monasteries and never go out of the monasteries, they handwrite the Bible. Okay, the Bible was handwritten by the monks, because the printing machine had not been invented yet. So to multiply the copies of the Bible, monks were handwriting them in the monasteries. So many monks worked together. Sometimes the priests, the head of the churches, wanted to change some of the teachings. They wanted to make little changes in the Bible. This was because the monarchy, aristocracy, and the church worked hand in hand. They wanted to work together because aristocrats wanted the people to obey them. Okay, to obey them. On the other hand, because of that, they used the church. And the church people changed the teachings of the Bible for the benefit of the aristocracy. So this was a mutual beneficial work for all of them. Therefore, they asked the priests, they asked the church to make some alterations, changes for the benefit of monarchy. And they did. When the monks realized these changes, if a monk realizes such a change, he was killed. Some poison dropped into his ink, and when they were writing, the ink, the fingers got stain of ink stain. So when they were turning the pages, licking their fingers, they got poisoned, and the next day they were found dead in their beds. Terrible history. So now the church took the control of language and literary studies for a long time, until the beginning of the 19th century. And in the beginning of the 19th century, the universities started to study literature and language as a serious academic topic. However, don't misunderstand. This is still a problem in our universities, even today. Okay, most of the science departments, physics or engineering, biology, chemistry, maths, medicine, consider literature as our topic as a very light, unscientific topic, because this is useless. They do not know, and they do not want to understand the importance and difficulty of our topic. No problem. We still work and we still continue studying, reading, and writing about this. On the other hand, when literature started to be studied in the universities as a serious academic topic, theories came out. And among these theories, of course, people started to read the earliest Greek and Roman texts in order to understand literature, because in order to understand literature, they read the classical theories written by classical philosophers to understand what literature is. And on top of their understanding, on top of their knowledge of what literature is, they wrote something more, of course. But there was nothing written in English until the 17th century about literary theories. So the earliest texts had been written in Greek and Roman by the Greek and Roman philosophers like Plato, Aristotle, Horace, Longinus. So the first theoretician that we are going to talk about here is Plato. Okay, please download Plato's Republic from the internet. I'm sure you can find lots of free copies in PDF on the internet. It doesn't matter which edition it is. It doesn't matter which publication. Please download a free PDF copy of The Republic and read book 10. Only book 10. Read book 10. It doesn't mean that you don't have to read the others, but you don't need them. You don't need the rest of the book for this lesson, but read the whole book. And also, please download Aristotle's Poetics from the internet. You're going to use it in our course. Okay, download Aristotle's Poetics from the internet. Okay, any questions so far? Do you have any questions so far? No? Not yet? Okay, what about the videos that you have watched? Do you have any questions about the videos I have loaded? No questions? No, sir. Okay. Thank you. Now, by the way, beginning from today, I'm also recording this on my computer, and I will share all of these on YouTube. Okay? As I did last spring term, I shared everything on YouTube, all my courses on YouTube. So please follow me on YouTube so you can also watch them again, because I don't know if they are going to, if the university is going to keep all these videos online. I'm not sure. They may not. So I'm also recording this on my computer, so I'm going to share them on YouTube. So then you can watch them anytime you want. If you have a YouTube application or whatever, I don't know if you need an application or so, you can always watch them. Now, the last 3 minutes for this session. Plato, one of the earliest Greek philosophers who wrote about life, politics, culture, and literature, wrote The Republic. The Republic actually was a book on the system of states, the system of governments. And in this case, he wasn't writing about literature, but he was writing about the state system, the governmental system, the management, administration of a country. Okay? But however, he was also talking about art and poetics, art and poetry, because art and poetry is under the system of a government, and the system of a government controls the art. It should control the art. And when art is controlled and when art is shaped by the government, then art becomes useful for a governmental system. Therefore, when Plato wrote, when Plato wrote The Republic, he was actually talking about the state system. So in his state system, he was suggesting that all the society should be very well educated, and the assembly of a state, assembly of a country, Meclis of a country, had to be full of scientists and philosophers. And only then a society can be totally free, and only then the art and literature in that society can be totally free. Okay, I'm now going to continue in the second session. I'm ending this session, and please join me again 5 minutes later. Thank you.